So you're
Sure.
saying you're bothered about the way that Lerix was presented during the Mama Max situation. You also cover the Mama Max situation, and I know that you didn't really get much ground in your coverage of it. In no disrespect, it sounds like you're a bit jealous and bitter. It sounds like you're a bit jealous and bitter of the fact that Lerix is getting a lot of attention over the Mama Max stuff, and you didn't really get that.
I didn't even dislike Lerix. I didn't even dislike Lerix until he started trying to take shots at me for no reason.
Well, MrSen, how's it going?
Hold on, let me mute your stream. I was watching a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. Hey, how's it going, Chud?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I did hear, at the ending, you said a lot of people have been messaging you and stuff about this and like super serious for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like some people I think are I don't know, a bit perturbed by you.
Oh shit, big word. I don't know what that means.
Just a bit bothered by you and just think you're kind of, a bit troublesome. That's wonderful. Maybe you could say.
Oh no, okay, that makes.
Do you consider yourself troublesome?
Yeah, I do piss some people off. I would say that. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. People say that I'm abrasive, bad faith, disingenuous, or something like that.
Okay.
Words. So the crusade or whatever, right?
Yeah. I mean, just to be clear, the reason I wanted to talk to you is I've looked at some of this stuff and I've not really seen that much that's kind of, made me think I need to cancel Lerix or anything like that.
No, you don't need.
But
yeah, no, nobody needs to cancel him. I think that's like the one misconception.
Okay.
Which is I guess for like the audience, right? For the audience, I mean, sure, I guess that's what it is. Most of the comments I get is like, you're calling him a pedophile and this, and I'm like, I never use those words. I use the exact words that Nick the Oreo would use, that Aiden Projects would use, that Lerix himself used, because I actually have the screenshot of him describing it exactly the way that I put it. So he described it as animated little girls, right? But his excuse of that was like, well, I was liking these animated little girls because I thought they were cute. Like I would look at a baby or something. And I'm just like, okay, like that that was before on his old account and shit. So I didn't call him a pedophile. Like my entire thing was like, this guy is fucking lame. He's a
But whoa. I feel like you're being a bit of a pussy because I've seen your community page and you are on a crusade against Lerix. You've posted repeatedly about this guy.
Yeah, and I tagged him.
And again, and again.
Yeah.
And you've called him his real name and you're making videos about this guy. Why?
I made one video and I think I made a couple of live streams when he did reply.
Right.
Which he did reply with a Google Doc, and that was one of them. In the Google Doc,
Okay. My problem is you're coming here and you're being like, look, I just think this guy's a bit weird, and I've just got some criticism.
No, not even weird. But
then I look here, and you're fucking endlessly posting about this guy. You're making
he's a pussy.
You're making images of him.
He's a fucking pussy, and he wants to act like he's hot shit. That's all it is. He's a pussy. He wants to act like he's hard shit, and I'm describing things to him as people like Nick the Oreo would, like anybody else would to any other person that likes this shit.
But I feel like the level that you're going to is to an extreme for what he's done. When you're endlessly posting on the community tab about him, you made one video about him. Apparently, you're making another video about the guy. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. Right. Okay.
To get a reaction, and it works.
So your crusade is to just get a reaction out of him, essentially.
Well, I got the reaction I needed out of him.
Okay.
Right.
But you're still going.
Go ahead. What do you mean?
Well, you're still continuing to post about him.
I'm going to make one. I'm gonna make the final video on him because now I got
one more video. Right. One more video about the guy. Got it. Okay. What happens after that?
That's it.
Right. Okay.
Everybody's allowed to think whether or not I know the majority are probably gonna be like, oh, this is nothing or whatever. But it's like the entire thing is like anybody else has been demonized for much less than this shit. So it's just like it's a little weird that when it comes to him, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, let's not talk about it. Or they start giving literal lolly talking points from the guy you covered like a week ago. What's his name? Rev says Disu. You remember that guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy you covered, the Lolicon YouTuber. You posted that title. It's like they use his talking points for this shit as a defense for him. So it's like, okay, right? And all these people that go ahead and defend him, right? Some of them from a small commentary. They have given this Rev guy so much shit for his same talking points, and then they use his talking points. That's really stupid.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
like,
well,
do you
I'd
not
say
see
that
what you're doing
I'd say
here?
the difference is, from what I understand, I don't know much about this Rev guy, but this Rev guy is consuming like pretty serious, hardcore lolicon material, and
No, he defends it basically. He
no, he
defends it.
consumes it as well. He consumes it too. There's videos on his channel with like, lolicon videos and salacious
Okay, that's
titles.
wonderful.
So you
But
just
how do
think
I
Rev
make
just defends it
money
and doesn't
off the
consume the
press deal?
stuff?
$5 from PD.
I haven't seen him
Chud
consume it.
MrSen when he had Discord erotic
But can you intuit?
I'm
from
sorry,
his
I'm not an
takes?
avid Rev Says Disu watcher.
Well, no,
I'm
but
sorry.
okay, that's fine. But okay. Well, why are you making such conclusive claims about him then, if you're not?
About Rev?
Yeah.
Because that's his thing. He's a lolicon grifter. That's what everybody knows him as.
Sure, but you're trying to make a comparison to Lerix, and my point is, I do not personally believe.
No. I'm not comparing Rev.
Okay,
I'm not
well, what are you
comparing Rev
saying
to
then?
Lyric. I'm comparing like the double standard here, where it's like, if
But
you're
no,
gonna
no.
get mad at Rev for using the talking points that he does,
Okay.
I'm talking strictly about the talking points in this instance.
Sure,
Not
but then if Rev is
here.
using these talking points to defend more explicit lolicon, I don't really see the comparison there. I mean, maybe you've got some examples we can look at it, perhaps, and I might well be critical of people that are using those talking points. But I think that what Rev is doing is, like, to my mind, substantively worse than anything I've seen of Lerix.
Sure, because Lerix doesn't defend it. Lerix just says he's against it and stuff, but he has gone ahead and consumed. To your point, though, you said, what was it? Rev consume hardcore lolicon stuff or whatever. Okay,
that's something I'm intuiting. I don't know. I've not got access to his computer, but the way he talks about it, the way he speaks on it, and the things that he's put.
So there's a
YouTube
presumption.
Suggest that. Yeah, sure.
So it's essentially a presumption. Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. So to that, I would say that Lerix has, in a sense, consumed his own, other than the 1,000 lolly likes that he deleted his Twitter account over. He has consumed.
Whoa, hold on. You're jumping ahead quite a lot with all these different points. Okay, so you're now talking about 1,000 Lolicon likes. I mean,
he did.
Okay,
that is proof.
But like,
there is proof of that.
Okay, stop trying to talk over me. Okay, you're not going to fucking win that battle, I can assure you. Okay, you're talking about 1,000 Lolicon likes. I'm saying, what exactly is that? Because I've got no idea. The things I've seen, they're cringe, like anime cringe girls, but they don't seem to be like explicit or something like that, to the point of some of the other stuff that I've heard about, in regards to this. So it's like,
okay,
I think the stuff he's liking is cringe, and you seem to agree with that, but then you're stating it in a way, and you're trying to make it so that I almost agreeing with you that he's this big lolicon one. I just don't think he is.
Well, I mean, he can't be a lolicon, but does that like, what's wrong with that? Like, in a sense, like, people are going to look at the word lolicon, they're going to go to pedophile, right? But if Lerix is himself, in our original conversation, telling me that his interpretation of lolly was that of a petite woman and not, the, I guess, pedophilia as most people would take it, what does that say then?
Okay, but here's the problem with our conversation now is, sure, I don't know what his consumption habits are. All I can go by is what he is liked, right, on Twitter, and the kind of things that he's willing to defend.
I'm about to get to what he consumed, though.
Okay, let's start there. Okay, but what I'm trying to get across is, like, you're just trying to say, yeah, he's kind of cringe for liking this, right? And he thinks he's hot stuff, right? And I might go, yeah, he is kind of cringe for liking it. And I know that he's been kind of obnoxious and stuff in the past. But now you're talking to me, and it's almost like you're trying to convince me of more. Like, you're kind of trying to surreptitiously slip in there an allegation of something more pernicious.
You can come to your own conclusion. It's whatever. I'll just tell you, like, okay, so if he's going to call lolicon pedophilia, right, and he's going to call lollies pedophile, animated CP, whatever, taking up the Dick Diorio stance, then why did you watch a review of an ecchi anime? Ecchi is a genre. Essentially, it's hentai is hardcore animated porn or whatever. Ecchi would be softcore, where it's like fan service, and it's like, I don't know, like you would see like panty shit or, like anything of that sort. So you're watching incest lolly anime to review it, when, like, very recently too. There's like the date of it.
Well, with that, I've watched a part of the review, and my understanding is, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say you should watch this and review it. That's cringe to me. But I thought that my understanding was he was very critical of the sexualized elements, and there was elements.
Why watch it?
I mean, yeah, sure. I just said, like, I wouldn't do that myself. Like,
I want to, like, if I may, like, if you have already established in your mind that you think this is, wrong, animated CP, as you will, or if that's in your mind or whatever, why even do it in the first place? Because that's dumb, because you're essentially saying I have to review what I consider to be animated CP in order to say it's bad. That's dumb. Don't do that, right?
I mean, I don't know if you're not understanding what I'm saying. I agree with you that that's dumb and
Right.
stupid and he shouldn't have done that. But in terms of interpreting
Yeah.
anything beyond that, I mean, I don't really have any strong evidence that he is, some sort of avid.
Well, anybody else would reach that conclusion. That's my thing. Anybody else would demonize other people for doing so. I've seen it countless times.
Possibly.
No, I've seen. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I've seen it countless times. That's why it's brought up in the first place.
I mean, is there an example of that where someone was critical of that sort of material? Like, for example, I think of Mama Max, right? Mama Max was reviewing Lolicon, or not Lolicon, but schoolgirl hentai stuff, right? But he was doing it in a way that was like salacious and talking about masturbating to it and stuff. And that is kind of like a worlds apart from what Lerix seemed to be doing in that video, as much as I think Lerix shouldn't have done it, right?
Right, where Max is basically doing the Rev thing where he's saying everything is okay and this is good and sort of like encouraging you to, take part in that shit. And your whole thing is that, well, he didn't say that you should do it. He was critical of the thing. My whole thing is like, why do you need to be critical of an incest lolly anime? If you've already established that lolly is pedophilia in your eyes, is that not stupid? Unless you're like,
bro, listen,
is that
look,
not dumb?
How many times have I got to tell you, bro? I agree. It's stupid. He shouldn't have done it, and it was a dumb thing to do. But that's where my criticism ends. And I don't really think it gives me any extra information to say he's, a vociferous kind of hardcore lolicon enjoyer and wants to look at little girls and jerk off to them and stuff, right? It's like, I agree with you that it was a bad idea. It was dumb and stupid. But you seem to be wanting more from me, but you're saying back to me what I'm saying to you is, yeah, it was dumb and stupid.
Well, I'm here to explain the situation, at least my side of the thing. You could just completely disregard me. It is what it is.
No, but the point I'm making is I agree with what you're saying, that it's dumb, but when you come back at me with, well, yeah, it's dumb, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it's dumb. It feels like you want something more from me.
Do you agree that, I'm just talking to you. We're just having the conversation. You don't have to agree with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you not agree that it's kind of stupid to demonize others for much less when this guy seems to be getting just a pass all around the board?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I don't know the ins and outs of every drama that's happened, right?
Yeah.
So I can't speak to all of it. But
because
on principle, I would agree, if someone has done less and is getting like heavily criticized for it, then you should probably recognize that and pull back a bit on that criticism if someone else is, not getting as heavily criticized for the same thing. But, without getting into examples, I don't really know what you're dealing with.
I'll give you like an example of Venti. Have you seen Brittany Venti? And her tweets regarding this. So in Brittany Venti's stance, I believe she says, the shark chick, the Gurgura thing, it enables pedophilia and this and that or whatever. And she's basing that at least strictly off of the grown men watching her or whatever, right? And then the defense for these guys is like, oh, I just enjoy watching it or whatever. But it's like you're still consuming the thing. So I guess it's like hang on a second.
Brittany Venti isn't like a substantive part of the commentary community. I was thinking you might be saying like, well,
so commentary in general. Okay, here's the screenshot for that. This is in regards to Tipster, which Tipster has gotten a lot of shit for Lolicon, even though he's never consumed the actual product. The only thing that Tipster has ever done is defend people that get into these situations, one which included Lerix at a time before they had beef, and then, that went sour. But he did defend Lerix initially. There's also that one rum chick. There was Vosh recently.
Whoa. Let's just take this a piece at a time. So I've actually recently covered the Tipster stuff extensively because I was a bit perplexed as to why it is that there's so much criticism of Tipster. I think that the thing is with Tipster is he constantly has shown a pattern of like defending images which are heavily sexualized children. And that's why he's got into hot water. Maybe Nicholas has got a bit of an inconsistency that he's more generous to Lerix than he is to Tipster on another level. But I think that like the criticism of Tipster is different. It's not necessarily that he's consuming it. There's no proof of that. People are saying that maybe he does. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. But Tipster kind of walks into rakes in defending things stupidly when he doesn't need to repeatedly, and that's why he's become a bit of like a laughing stock of the community.
Yeah. So his main, you're saying that like the reason Tipster is more so criticized is not because people actually think he consumes lolicon, but more so that he defends this kind of fucking behavior on a repeated basis.
Yeah, yeah. In an unnecessary way, like, and often on the sword of like a woman that he likes at that given time, be it Keffals or that other artist that he defended.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see that then. In the thing with Nicholas, you said there is kind of like a inconsistency of sorts, or you said there might be.
Well, I think that just generally, and this isn't speaking to like, oh, there's a definite hypocrisy that I can see, but
Mhm.
I think that Lerix is, you know, has definitely like some stuff that you know, you probably show me. We can talk about that in more detail, you know. And I think that at the time the commentary community did criticize him for that. But I think that on one hand, it isn't as bad as some of the other stuff that you see. But on the other, I think it's just the nature that Lerix has come back and he's kind of like a, you know, likable, funny guy. I think that
Right.
because of his nature and because of the way that he acts, I think.
Or the way he's presented as well.
What do you mean
Could
by
that
that?
be a thing as well? The presentation of somebody, like for example, during the Mama Max situation, he was presented, especially. But I think I mentioned this as well about you. Fuck, what was the title? His Mama Max's biggest opposition or something of that sort.
Yeah.
Was that the title? Something of that sort. So it's like Mama Max's biggest opposition is a guy that can't even be honest about his own controversy because every time it's different and it's like I didn't do this. For example, one of the things he claimed in the document that he made is he's never liked anything sexualized that was lolly related, but there is a screen cap of it.
Okay.
Where it's
So,
essentially
whoa. Okay, we can get. I'm happy to. You can show me that stuff, but we've jumped ahead quite a
Sure.
few points, haven't we? Right. So let's just rewind a second. So you're
Sure.
saying you're bothered about the way that Lerix was presented during the Mama Max situation. You also cover the Mama Max situation, and I know that you didn't really get much ground in your coverage of it. You know, no disrespect. It sounds like you're a bit
I didn't care
jealous
that
and
much
bitter.
about.
It
There
sounds like
was
you're a bit
nothing.
jealous and bitter of the fact that Lerix is getting a lot of attention over the Mama Max stuff, and you didn't really get that.
I
much.
didn't
That's
even
what it sounds
dislike
like.
Lerix. I didn't even dislike Lerix until he started trying to take shots at me for no reason. And this all went back to the initial reason. I was actually cool with him. Me and him were cool.
Well,
The only reason this happened, the only reason this even happened is because he was mad that I got critical of the way he, not even that critical, of the way
first
he
of
covered a
all,
group
you
chat
calling
leaks.
okay, sure. You're saying, you know, critical. I mean, you've taken it to an extreme. You're repeatedly posting about this guy, but I feel like that when you're saying he's presented, it feels like you've got a bit of a sour taste in your mouth because Lerix is getting a good go into the Mama Max stuff.
Well, no, he's a
you didn't
fake ass
really.
motherfucker. It's like, didn't people get a bad taste when Max was trying to present things
He's
as
a
if
fake ass motherfucker. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? The way you speak about him, right? It's not just like, here's the thing that he did that I think is bad. Now you're making these kind of value judgments
okay,
about him.
yeah,
He's
sure,
a fake ass motherfucker.
I don't.
If you think that, that's fine. But that doesn't
Yeah.
really speak to the kind of criticism that we're supposed to be talking about, which is apparently I thought that he was some hypocrite because, you know, he liked this Lolicon stuff.
Yeah, he is. Why can't it be both?
I mean, it can be, but like the way you talk about him, it just undermines your point. I think
Well,
because it comes across that you're bitter rather than you've got a substantive criticism to it. Right?
Yeah, I've gotten those comments before too. They're like, "You're just bitter about this whole situation." My entire thing to that would be like, if that was the case, though, how does that change the actual things that are being presented and the actual facts that he's going ahead and he's saying? Again, for example, there was nothing sexual in my likes, and then this comes up because somebody saved it.
Well,
and
again, listen, I will definitely get to that, but you know, you said about the way he's presented, right? So let me just address that quickly, because the thing is with the way he's presented is that he challenged Max in a call that was quite substantive in, you know, generating the drama, right? And assuming someone isn't like a full-blown pedo, like if EDP did this, right? I think, you know, I could imagine that people would be like, "Oh, EDP's a fucking nonce himself. What's he talking about?" Right? But I think because what he did was like fairly limited in terms of like actual outrage, and he did a good job with the Mama Max stuff. And he seems to be maybe less abrasive and obnoxious from what I've heard more recently.
Right.
I think he's kind of more accepted for those reasons and presented positively for that reason. Certainly, it could have an impact on, how he's perceived on previous dramas.
Right.
But then that would be for you to bring forward your case of, well, look, he's done this bad stuff. And so far, you haven't really shown me that much to show, well, he's done terrible stuff before, so he shouldn't be getting accepted and presented in this way now.
No, listen, Max was presented and accepted for the longest time. He even got away with calling some random guy a pedophile, apparently, and then that got re-brought up during
Which was
the
wrong,
drama.
and I've been very critical of, including people like Mutahar and Nexpo and so on. So I agree with you, that was crazy, yeah.
Yeah, it just seems to me that if you do, like you said, he's been doing all the right stuff, and he's been his nose has been clean, he's less abrasive, and he's less of a dick than he was before. It looks like if you're a very, very charming person, right, you can essentially have a squeaky clean image and have a lot of people defend you, even if there are certain things presented. Like I said, just to go back to my initial point, if this was some other person, like, I don't know, random Joe Schmo, because this has happened before in commentary, and they even got a little bit of a lick of anything of this sort of what Lerix is like, all of a sudden it becomes like you are just a full-blown pedo, you are this and that, because this has happened to smaller people, and this always tends to happen, like, I don't know, random Joe Schmo or whatever, but it doesn't happen to this guy, and there does seem to be more of a pattern and more things being presented. As I presented this, for example, I posted it or whatever. The screen cap, I can't find it, but it's right there. I made a short on it. And he claimed that in his document there was nothing sexual of nature.
Right.
But this is clearly sexual of nature because you can tell with the, the ball gag and the dildo and whatever the fuck else is there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to bring this up. I'm just, the sex toys aspect, I just want to black that out just to be on the safe side. Because I actually looked at this, funnily enough, and I was a bit undecided on whether or not this is like a very obvious, I don't like anime, right? I'm not into the anime stuff. And to me, this looked more like a representation of, a sort of teenager than like an explicitly young person. Right, I'll cut it off there. Okay, that should do. So there we go. So this is the person here, right? And to the left there's sex toys, right?
Right, it's sexual. My entire point with this is, you said there was nothing sexual in your likes, but here's something that's sexual in your likes. To your point, where you say that you see it more as a teenager rather than a child.
So
because
yeah, I think this is a sexual image. I agree. This is a sexual image. Okay, so
that would just
you've got Lerix on like maybe not being completely 100% on there being a sexual image that he's liked. Okay,
well, it's more like dishonesty, though, right?
Yeah,
if he claims that there was, because this isn't the only screen cap.
Yeah, sure. I think that I would agree with you that in his response, and I think I maybe even commented on this when I watched it. It's like, there's a level of like, if he just addressed it head on, full on, completely in all of it, even bringing up the image and talking about it, I think that would do a lot better by him to kind of squash this more substantively. But like, I don't think...
he can't even take it as a joke, because I had called in previously a couple times and talked to him, and one of the jokes that I made, actually, I told him, because, so here's the thing, I'm sure you've seen, like, everybody says, oh, why is Lolicontroversy calling out Lerix? It's like, because I've gotten more shit. Like, maybe this is to your bitter point. Maybe I am really bitter about this. I've gotten more shit. Maybe I've gotten more shit than like, for much less than he has. Like, I have, like, video evidence here. I have fucking archives. I have this, and that. But it's always disregarded as either, like...
So the thing is like, I don't know much, people have sent me, oh, this Sen guy's got this background. I'm just like, not Lerix, to be clear, so a couple of them commentary. It doesn't matter who, it's irrelevant. But, Lerix hasn't really commented on me, he's kind of just left it alone in regards to this combo. So, but yeah, it's like, oh, and people in chat have like sent links to a video. I've not actually looked at that and investigated that too much, right? I'm not really interested in your background and having this conversation, right? Because the way that I look at it is, you saying that does speak to the fact that you feel like you're hard done by because you're getting so heavily criticized for whatever your background is, and Lerix gets kind of a free ride. And not only that, he gets widely accepted and praised by the commentary community.
Well, it's not
And
even. It's not even like criticism though. It's like you're just like they're straight up calling me like a pedophile. Like they're making new fucking stories about the original claims. Like now all of a sudden I'm a groomer. Now all of a sudden there was a 17-year-old. Now all of a sudden I'm like 30 years old. All of a sudden this and that. It's like different. There are like 20 videos. I'm sure there are plenty of videos out there, and everybody has their own different spin, but it's about the same situation. Lerix has had multiple situations where he's been caught with this shit, and there's no negative spin on that. There's always people disregarding it, or then just to go back to one of the points you made, it was like, what was it? This looks more like a teenager than it does, a child or whatever, which is like, that is essentially the petite, the petite fucking lolly argument, which is like, I mean, it doesn't have big boobs to identify it as, an adult or whatever, but it is, flat chested, which means it's just a petite chick. That is that
yeah,
argument
sure.
that's
I
used
mean,
in
the thing
that
is like
community.
I'm looking at this and it's like I wouldn't like this image. I don't think Lerix should have liked this and engaged with this stuff, you know. But I guess that for me, the kind of level of explicitness, the fact it isn't naked, the fact it isn't hardcore or whatever, it just doesn't meet that same standard of kind of, I guess, feeling within me that I'm like, this is like so grotesque that I wouldn't want to kind of associate with this person, and I don't
Yeah,
know, and I don't want to necessarily know what you've been doing with your stuff on this regard. So I guess I don't know whether I might look at your stuff and I'd be like, oh
no.
my God, this is more gross or
Well,
this is worse.
that's the thing. You can associate with him or whatever. The my whole thing is that, well, if he's not gonna get criticized for this, and now everybody is using lolly talking points to defend him, or like Reb's talking points, is it not fair to be a little more lenient with people that consume this kind of shit, or at least give them sort of an out and stuff? Because if you obviously don't have an issue, that much of an issue with this, if somebody that you like is doing it, right? So it's like, why not extend that courtesy to everybody else or some people,
Well, I think
right?
that okay, but the problem that you've got though is that there is going to be a different analysis made dependent on the context and the images themselves. Like for
Hmm.
example, if you had someone that was like liking that, let's say it was the same image, they'd like that image, and they got different treatment to how Lerix got under the similar context, then yeah, I would agree with you. That's hypocritical. But with some of this stuff, there can be images out there which are worse, like nudity, sexualized, way more sexualized, that
Yeah.
people are going to have more of an issue with. So, it's difficult without doing an exact comparison of like what are the images that person A liked and Lerix liked and comparing it
Right.
to really see that hypocrisy.
It
Um,
would be easier to do so if he hadn't deleted his original Twitter account, which I continue to bring up that he had, and this isn't an exaggeration, it was over 1,000 lolly likes. He deleted that account. It's not there anymore. It's not present. But
yeah, and
it's kind of difficult when it looks like, at least to me, right? Other people obviously disagree. It just kind of looks like anytime he'll delete this stuff, because he did delete his Aromanga Sensei review as well when that was being brought up. So he deleted that. He deleted his original Twitter account, and he deleted his anime Twitter account. And on his anime Twitter account, he also had, images like this or whatever. Um, so it's like it just looks like he's deleting evidence at this point. Though he claims that none of it was lolly, though he claims none of it was sexual, I've shown that it was lolly, it was sexual in this little
oh, but
screen.
but hang on a sec. You're using the word
Yeah,
sexual, right? And I would agree
yeah.
it's sexual, but an image of a young cat girl with images of sex toys by them is sexual. And also an image of not even making it about lolly, an adult woman drawn getting fucked is also sexual. But those are two very
Mm.
different things. And if it was that same person and it was the same kind of like, it could be a teenager, but maybe it is younger and they were getting fucked, I would probably be on board that, yeah, this is really fucked up to like this stuff. But, it's like, it's just not
Yeah,
the same thing to me.
but again, like it got deleted, and if you're going to stomach an entire review of a 12-year-old, animated child getting looted up, right? Various 12-year-old animated children getting looted up, it's like, is it not fair to come to the conclusion that this might be like you might be desensitized to this to the point where it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal or something? Like that's my only thing. It's like if you're looking at it through a lens that you're not in the anime community or a weeb or anything of that sort, obviously it's going to look weird to you, which is why Diorio's stances have always been like, if it looks like a child, as like the hammer, like he doesn't want to have any kind of like anything to do with this. Like if it looks like it to him, then that's what it is to him. And that's
Yeah,
what
sure.
I
But
thought
then,
was
the thing is like I can't speak for Nicholas exactly, but it
right.
could well be that he's looked at the context of this himself. And bear in mind, I'm pretty sure that the commentary community gave him some fucking stick over this stuff when it happened, did they not? Like he got a lot of criticism for this when it happened and went through the ringer over it.
Um I don't believe it. I think it was more brought up so because of how he was acting at the time, which was what you call it. I mean, there was talks of a dox, but I don't even know if he was actually doxing. I know he freaked out on the live stream, which made Doc on the radio block him. But Doc on the radio also agrees,
Wait,
though,
whoa.
that
Okay. Wait. Now we're talking about something else, I feel.
yeah,
I'm trying
because
to,
there are enough
okay.
people that have called this lolly and degenerate.
Sure, but I'm
So
trying
what
to.
does degeneracy?
But wait a second. You're
what-
saying it's you saying it's been called on degenerate, and he's been criticised for this. But that isn't enough for you. He needs to be. You're saying it doesn't matter if you want to associate with him or you don't have that issue with it. But now you're saying things that make it sound like it's worse and like he should be excised and he's not being excised.
No, he doesn't deserve to be excised. I just want to shit on him, and I want to show that there's a bit of a double standard. That's whatever. You guys are gonna end up liking him by the end of the day anyway. There's nothing is really gonna change unless somebody gets really, really mad at him of high status and then just brings everything up. That's what happened with Max.
Sorry, slow down. We can go back to. So, what is this doc on the radio tweet? What is the point you're making? Show me this.
One of the defenses for Lerix is that none of the shit that he liked was lolly or degenerate, which degeneracy in this case would imply like, sexualization, because what goes through your mind when you hear degeneracy or degenerate?
But this is Doc on the Radio's perception of it. I don't know. Doc, Doc on the Radio is Asian, so maybe he does have some say in this that I should listen to. But I don't necessarily know why I would take this person's word for it, because I do think that sometimes people in the commentary community get,
are quick to call anything.
Quick to call something, quick to judge, quick to jump to a conclusion, quick to jump to an allegation. And
right.
I just think I've always thought just take a step back and give people their fair shake to say what they've done or talk about what they've done and judge accordingly.
Right.
Well,
Nick DiOrio did make a deleted tweet that's not deleted, where he did call it lolly because he did block Lerix. And in this, if he wants to unlist the stream, we could get more context of it. But in this stream, like, he does freak out a little bit that Nick and Doc are unfollowing and blocking him. And in that one tweet that Nick posted, he specifically says, "I blocked Lerix for lolly shit." So that's another person that's confirming that. Just, not even just to try to convince you, but just to get the general point out there to people that were saying, this is not lolly.
Okay.
It's clearly is.
But the thing is, I'm making a point that he got criticized for this, and you're backing up, yes, he did get criticized for this quite heavily from the sounds of it, right?
No, well, yeah, sure, okay. Go ahead.
So you agree that at that time he was getting heavily criticized for this lolly stuff that you're claiming it is, right?
Right.
Okay. But then also, when you say that they're calling it lolly degen stuff, well, that backs up your point that the commentary community are quick to come to judgment and quick to come an opinion on stuff. And maybe now they're looking at Lerix in a kind of light. Maybe that's a good sign that they're not willing to be so hard on people, given a chance that they're going to move forward and don't do this shit going forward and don't like super degen stuff, that they're willing to be a bit more flexible and let them back into the fold. Like, that to me seems like a good thing.
Yeah, no, that is definitely a charitable interpretation of it. My interpretation of it, you can completely disagree with this, is that it's more so of like, who is either your internet friend or who you see in a positive light or who you need to maintain connections with. That's what I look at it as. So it's not really necessarily a charitable interpretation of it. But I guess, yeah, people can look at it the way you are. And
well, the thing is, just to be clear,
yeah.
Sorry, go on. No, please go on.
Well, if that is the case, then you're right. It is a positive move in the right direction However, I do have like one to that to your charitable interpretation. I did see the clip where you had Queeman ask Nick DiOrio, "Why do you give Lerix a pass?" Nick's stance has clearly not changed, as he went ahead and said, "Well, if he liked lolly shit, well, he's a freak, and basically like fuck him, condemn him and stuff." But that's a very mild reaction to when it'd be anything else. Like I've seen Nick go ahead and call a shonen or like an anime like My Hero Academia, specifically say, "I don't want 14-year-old children being sexualized and stuff." But it's like, but I was like, that's that you stated like that. It's I don't know. It seems like a very uncharitable representation, considering that the guy you endorsed for the Max situation watched an anime of a 12-year-old child, animated child, I'm sorry, getting looted up, and you seem to take no problem with that. It's weird. It seems weird to me.
Sure, but then I guess the way I look at it is like, if Nicholas said that at the time and was critical of it, and now he's not as critical of Lerix, I mean, to me, I can't speak for Nicholas exactly, right? But I would presume that maybe he's like thought about it and willing to be a bit more moderate because he's got a different view on what Lerix did now, outside of getting caught up in the drama about it at the time, possibly.
Do you believe
that's the only
that
thing I can think? But one thing I was trying to say before, I don't, I don't want it to seem like I'm saying like there isn't stuff that go on. There aren't friendships that happen, and people, are a little bit more flexible with people they're friendly with. That obviously is a dynamic that does exist, of course. And I think that if you don't like someone, you're probably you are just going to have a harsher standard for them generally, and are not going to want to associate and mix with them. I think that is a dynamic that exists and does happen. So it's not to say it doesn't happen at all. I just think that with the Lerix situation, without knowing the intent or how people's views have changed, I think it's like Lerix got heavily criticized, and I think he deleted his own channel and left for a little while. He's come back with fresher heads on his shoulders. He's quite a young guy. He's 20. I think some of these tweets he was liking when he was a teenager, perhaps, but nonetheless,
No.
No?
No. That's always the spin on it, but it was...
well, how old was he when he was liking these tweets then?
18, 19. When he made the review, was 20, because this was recent. And normally, like I've also seen this defense, Chud, where it's like, well, he was a teenager, and I'm like, well, now we're defining like a 19-year-old as a teenager, and that's strange though, because if we're gonna use that logic, then I guess Zero, the Smash player, was also a teenager.
Whoa, hang on. Zero messaged a 14-year-old and tried to get sexual images from an actual child. That's substantively different.
Did he?
Yes, that is proven
there is no
doubt.
Well, there is. Okay, so the smoking gun for that would be like the ice cube and the pussy thing, right? That's what what people claim that he asked for.
Listen. Okay, we don't need to litigate that out. If you think differently about that, that's fine. We don't need to say conclusively what happened. But I'm saying at least the perception of what happened with Zero was that he was talking to an actual child trying to get images for them, right?
Whereas that's another lolly talking point.
What do you mean?
That's another lolly talking
point. What do you mean?
That's another lolicon talking point, but it wasn't an actual child.
Wait. Okay. Messaging someone who is underage and trying to get naked images of them, right, is an act that, if followed through with, will cause harm to a child because they're producing an image of themselves, right?
Exactly.
I don't like lolly, okay? And I think the people that look at that stuff, especially when they're like naked and younger, a degenerate freak, probably pedos or whatever, right? But looking at the kind of images that Lerix was looking at does nowhere close to the same, it doesn't even do any harm in and of itself to the same level that getting an image of a 14-year-old would.
Then why review a anime where 12-year-olds getting looted up?
Okay, but we're looping back around to this point. I agree with you. It's a stupid thing to do. But just because Lerix did that, doesn't mean that I would view him in the same way that someone that I believe, rightly or wrongly, was messaging someone who was 14 for a nude.
But how do I make money?
And, with all due respect, that is my point, is that not a lolly talking point where lolicons say, if it's not harming an actual child, what is the, problem?
Let me lay this out for you because, I understand where you're coming from. I do, okay? Right? My argument isn't it's not harming a child, so it's okay to look at it. Because I think that even though Lolicon doesn't harm a child, I think that you looking at it and consuming it is having an impact on you in some respect. So if you're looking at an image of a drawing of a 12-year-old having, getting raped, okay, I think that that's an impact on you that you need to be considerate of, even if it's not causing a harm. Whereas if someone is messaging like a 14-year-old for a naked image, right, that's worse because it's not just about the impact on you in doing that. You've also got a real 14-year-old that you're causing harm to. So it's worse.
Yeah, and I think
so
most
that's not a
people
lolly
agree with
talking,
that.
right? But that's not a lot. But okay, I do understand where you're coming from, but I think that's not a lolly talking point. The lolly talking point is, well, because no child is being hurt, it's okay for me to consume it, and I disagree with that. I think you're harming yourself in consuming it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I'll agree with you on that. But is there anything else you'd like to ask me? Because I do have I have this clip over here as well.
Yeah, sure. Let's have a look.
Want to
What
check
we
it
got?
out. This is Tom on Doc on the Radio confronting Lerix, where he says, "Is this about your lolly degenerate Lycs?" And again, I asked you, what would you consider degeneracy to go ahead and what would you consider degeneracy to be in this context?
Oh, this clip here.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I do this? Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Right, let me throw it up.
The rundown is Aiden's like gay, and that's like
I disagree
with that.
You could stop it at
It's about your degenerate lolly
45 seconds if you'd like.
45 seconds, okay.
Yeah, if you want to cut
gay,
the time.
And it's like I disagree with that. And I'm
about
like,
because I think that just goes back to your you know what, Chud? Actually stop it at
Listen, mate,
15.
let me just play the whole
15.
thing. I'm just going to play the whole thing.
Okay, sure. Go for it.
Let's go.
The rundown is Aiden's like gay, and it's like I disagree with that. And
It's about your degenerate lolly Lycs. Is that what this is about?
Okay, dude.
Well, is that what it's about? What is it?
Technically, yeah.
Oh, okay, I see. I guess I could see.
You serious?
Sorry, right. Diorio. Wait a second, didn't you have something to say to Diorio too?
Oh, yeah, Diorio, why did you give Lerix a pass? What's the deal there? Oh, yeah, Diorio, why did you give Lerix a pass? What's the deal there?
I don't know, everyone told me that it wasn't like legit lolly.
Really just part of the plot, like how Sagiri needs to see these underage girls' panties to take her drawing.
Like I said, Lerix could literally groom an underage child, and you freaks would defend him. Sad times.
Okay, I gotta be honest with you, bro. That was incredible. Okay, what the fuck? Explain to me what I'm supposed to be seeing in that clip.
Just the 15-second clip that confirms that it is lolly degenerate stuff. And degeneracy, I asked you, what would you consider degeneracy to be in this context?
But no, wait. You're saying that Turkey Tom saying that is confirmation of what it is. But I just don't see it that way. Like,
there are multiple instances.
I agree at the time, people in the commentary community perceived it that way. And again, as I thought, he did get grief and shit for that at the time.
Yeah, and your entire argument is like their idea of what it is could have changed. I don't have any proof that it has. I just think that it could have.
Well, I guess that, like, my point is that he got grief for it. It could be that their view changed. It could be that it hasn't changed. I don't know, right? From what I can see, I feel like he got a bit of a rough ride, okay? He's come back strong with this Mama Max stuff. He's a likable guy, right? So people are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, especially considering that from what I can see, the stuff that he was liking didn't seem to be that bad. That's the kind of way that I'm viewing this whole situation. But you seem to have something... Sorry, go on.
Well, that's why I gave you the clip at 15 seconds in to confirm that it is lolly degeneracy, and that's why I continue to ask you, what would you consider degeneracy to be in this context?
No. At the time, it was perceived as that and discussed as that. And for all I know, maybe Turkey Tom still sees it as that now, and he knows that in his head, and he thinks, well, Lerix did a good job with the Mama Max stuff, so I'm going to give him a pass. I don't know. I can't say for sure. But like, even in that clip, it didn't necessarily sound like Tom was doing a video. You know, there's a difference between Tom making a video about like Giggly Goon Clown or someone like that and going disgusting, blah blah blah. And in that clip, it sounded a bit more like I don't know. Lerix is a bit uncomfortable with it, but I might make a bit of a jibe if he's in chat about the Lolicon Lerix stuff. Like it sounds like more of a jab or a jibe than a conclusive statement of you are a disgusting degenerate freak, you know, etc.
Yeah, no, it's don't cancel him over this and anything of that sort. It's just to prove to the commenters that continue to come in and say this isn't lolly, this and that. There's multiple confirmations that it is. So I guess if anything, that's for more so to the audience and stuff, because the points have been it's not lolly, there wasn't anything sexual. I've shown that it was lolly, and there was stuff that's sexual.
Okay, but then the way that I'm seeing it is saying that it's not lolly is because of the implications that come with the word lolly, right? Like I think what is trying to be communicated there is, you know, he is not liking like sexualized images of children, which is what people are concerned about when they're talking about with the lolly, right? There are maybe some questionable images that I would, if I was over his shoulder and he was about to like it, I go, don't like that, mate. That's fucking weird. Why are you going to like that? But I don't think, for me, from what I've seen, and if you've got more examples, I'll look at it. But it doesn't seem like there's anything of that nature that's super sexualized that I would be kind of outraged at him liking to that degree where I wouldn't want anything to do with them. And I know that you're saying that's not what you're after, but I think that like Vosh, for example, is someone that I'm like, yeah, this guy's a total freak because what he was had in his possession was so much more substantive, worse, and, you know, sexualized and explicit than the stuff that Lerix was liking.
Right, and it's good that he has someone, or I'm having a conversation with someone like you who's able to form the points more so than he is, which is again another thing. It's like there are more people.
Why would he want to fucking talk to you? Because you fucking pursued this guy.
He's done it in the past. He's done it in the past.
But you, listen, I'm trying to have a respectful conversation here, okay? So don't take this the wrong way. But you're acting like kind of an obsessed freak. You're going on about him on fucking YouTube. You're tweeting about him. Like, obviously,
I'm not
he's
allowed
probably
to make content on anybody.
Okay.
If your perception of this whole thing is that making videos or countless videos, as you claim,
No.
These videos are not really.
It's not to say you can't make content about someone.
And
you can do what you like. You can make 100 community posts about him, calling him by his first name, which you do, which is kind of weird to do.
Yeah, because it makes him pissed off. It pisses him off.
Right, so you're doing it because you want to make him feel uncomfortable, and then you wonder why he doesn't want to talk to you. Why would he want to? So you're intentionally, you're intentionally trying to piss him off repeatedly on an issue that, you know, obviously in many ways has kind of been litigated from the sounds of it, particularly last year, and you're continuing to pursue it, and you're doing it in a way where you're using his name, you're making memes about him with his face on and stuff. Like, it seems pretty obvious to me why he doesn't want to talk to you, because you're acting like a weird freak.
That's a very charitable interpretation. Very charitable.
Okay, well, what's your interpretation? What's your interpretation?
Chud, I had already established why those community posts were made, right? To get the reaction, which he did. Funny enough, though, I believe that the thing that really got the reaction was when Plague Moth brought it up, which is funny because nobody should really take Plague Moth as a threat to your... Like, if Plague Moth thinks you're a freak, who fucking cares? Because it's Plague Moth. So I don't know why...
You messaged Plague Moth, didn't you? You messaged
No, somebody got in contact with him to me, and I'm like, hey, does Plague Moth know about this shit? Because I think it'd be funny if he did. And then Plague Moth saw it.
So you are the reason he was made aware of it, yes or no?
Moth? Yeah, sure, technically.
Like, you're fucking litigating over the points.
Who cares?
Because you are intentionally trying to present an impediment to Lerix challenging this Plague Moth guy. And giving him fucking ammo when Plague Moth, by all accounts, is a total freak loser. Like, people are not going to like that, are they?
Well, his audience seemed to be okay with the whatever Lerix was liking, so I mean, that's a W, I guess.
Wait, what?
If your freak audience is going to think that what you liked is okay, and then you're going to get... This is the funniest part. Moth had people in his comment section or his community post also saying, what's wrong with liking a child, Moth? It's not real and shit. That was his own fucking fan base, by the way, which interesting.
Well, hang on a second. Okay, you've got this habit where you like spit out a lot of points, and it's like a lot to engage with, right? You've given me 3 or 4 things to kind of talk about there, right? So first of all, right, You messaged Plague Moth because you thought it would be funny to interfere with a big piece of content that Lerix was doing, right?
Was it a big? I didn't interpret it as a big piece of content.
What, challenging
Because
Plagued Moth over controversies he's been involved in, following him speak to Turkey Tom?
again, for the 50th time, like, what else does there need to be challenged? Plague Moth is a false striker. He calls people pedophiles, apparently. What else does there need to be said about this guy? It's like you're going back.
No, whoa. You're a little slimy fucker, aren't you? Okay? I'm not saying that it hasn't been challenged before. What I'm saying is, for Lerix, that's a big piece of content for a channel his size challenging a big YouTuber, right?
If you want to look at it that way, sure. A demonetized YouTuber. Hold on. A demonetized YouTuber who is known to be what? Bottom of the barrel, essentially, other than to gore people or his own audience, is a big YouTuber in your eyes. Sure,
Okay.
I guess by.
Do you think that a small
count,
channel challenging a big channel is a big piece of content for the small channel? You don't agree with that?
I think his pull is a lot better than Moth. I think his pull is larger than Moth. So I don't view him as a small channel going against a big channel. I view it as the other way around.
Lerix was trying to do something and you wanted to chuck something in front of him because you thought it would be funny because you hate the guy.
I don't hate him, but I did think it'd be funny. And it was. So what?
Well, I'm just pointing. Listen,
So
look, at the end of the day, I'm pointing out just what you're doing. And as long as you're willing to accept that, then I'm cool with that, right? But
sure.
But you're trying to wrangle around it, acting like you weren't looking at that, thinking, I can imagine you rubbing your hands together. Oh, he's speaking of Plague Moth, is he? Wait until Plague Moth finds out about this. And then it caused, obviously, a sort of chaotic moment
No,
of
I thought
drama
it'd be
for him.
funny, and it was funny, yeah. It got very funny. It was very funny to see him squirm over Plague Moth of all people, and then pulled a "you're pedo jacketing me" fucking argument. There wouldn't be no pedo jacketing argument if he didn't call lolicon pedophilia. Like, why are you calling lolicon pedophilia if you've been caught with this shit before, right?
Yeah, you can justify it all you want. That's fine. But fundamentally, you wanted to chuck something underneath him. You wanted to throw an oil slick underneath. It's like he's first in Mario Kart and you want to chuck a blue shell at him. That's what it comes across like. You're fucking last place. Fire off the blue shell to fucking fuck him up, right? Okay,
sure.
That's
It was
cool.
funny. It was funny. Yeah, it was very funny to see him squirm over Plague Moth. I thought that was funny as hell. So nobody should squirm.
Look, to be fair,
nobody should squirm over Plague Moth.
No. I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not saying that nobody should squirm. Okay, I thought it generated a good bit of content, and I even covered it and was like, "Damn, this is fucking good content," right? But then, the reason I bring it up and speak on it in this way is because it demonstrates that, like, yeah, you are not like. You're just concerned with like making him look stupid in any way you can because if you want to say you don't like him, that's fine, but you're kind of pursuing this guy and you're on top of this guy trying to fuck with him repeatedly.
Yeah, it could be. It's that. It's definitely that, obviously, but it's also the double standard thing. Why can't it be both? Why does it have to be regulated to one or the other? I feel like you're trying to tell me. Yeah. No, I feel like you're trying to tell me it has to be one or the other. Your perception of me is like, because you called me slimy, you're trying to hide this as a noble cause, but in reality, you're just trying to chuck the blue shell at him and stuff. It's like, no, it could be both. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's gonna go as me being just the bitter party and obsessed and all this shit, which is all right, whatever. And I don't think this is ever going to be brought up unless he actually fucks up majorly like Max did. Because again, Max did a lot of fucking stupid shit. Max literally called like a random guy a pedophile, which had repercussions on his life from what I can understand. That wasn't challenged. That wasn't even brought up. That actually, let me correct that. That was brought up on the podcast of Nux and all those big million sub YouTubers. And it was just kind of, if anything, Nux Taku was pushing more towards Max's claims being legitimate, which is kind of stupid. I believe Nexpo also was aware that none of the shit that Max did, or at least a portion of what Max did, was like bullshit. But again, there's nothing out there. It wasn't until Max really royally fucked up that all this shit was being brought to light. So I believe that, yeah, it was because Max had like the same thing where he was perceived as a nice guy, as the predator hunter. He's doing all these good plays and stuff.
I feel like we're comparing apples and oranges because I do agree, of course agree. I myself talked to Mutahar and sort of challenged him on his friendship with Max. So I agree with that. But I think that like, I guess I just don't see the comparison because of how unhinged and crazy Max was in the way he was going after people calling them pedophiles without evidence and so on. And from what I've seen recently of Lerix, he seems to be quite cautious. You know, he doesn't want to call someone a certain thing, you know, unless he's got good evidence for it, like the Wilbur stuff, the Super Mega stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems
Which
like he's
is
got a different tact.
That is smart and that is good. It's just, again, me and him were cool, and it's like you're saying, like, you just want to fuck with the guy, sure. But also to just point out kind of like the hypocrisy would be more on like the commenters or anybody that goes, you know, and immediately calls somebody
right.
Like,
so okay,
you know, like
so go
like
on.
the image I showed where you said that this to you is interpreted more as a teenager rather than, you know, a child, I guess, which is your definition of the lolly thing. Lerix had a different interpretation of that when we first spoke, which I get. This was about a year ago or so. So I guess his stance has changed now that he's back in commentary. Which is like, okay, sure.
Okay, but the way I look at it is, from what I can see, it seems like Lerix recognizes that he's got this kind of controversy in his past, and he's kind of, you know, been through the ringer with it. And obviously, some people like yourself are trying to bring it to the forefront, maybe somewhat. And it seems like he maybe doesn't want to touch those topics. Like, I'm pretty sure he didn't go near the Vosh stuff, and I think that's probably because, even though, again, I don't think what he was liking was close to the level of gratuity and sexualization of Bosch's images, I think he'd just rather not kind of touch that stuff so he doesn't have to deal with that kind of issue or criticism. So presuming, like, what it would be for me is if Lerix made a piece where he was criticizing people that like similar image to what he did, then yeah, that would be like a direct hypocrisy, right?
But how do I make money?
Obviously, there's other people out there.
From PD.
Okay.
Chud.
PD, I don't know why you're bringing up. I said already, we're not getting into fucking Sen's history. I'm not interested in that. You've been repeated with this, and I appreciate it, but can we just focus on the matter at hand, please? Jesus Christ. Okay, sorry about that. So anyway, sorry. What I was trying to say is, you know, I think, yeah, if there was a direct hypocrisy from him like that, sure, you know, I think that would be reasonable to call him out for that. And in terms of your broader point about the commentary community, it seems like what you're trying to say is you just want to fuck with Lerix, right? But then on top of that, you feel that amongst the commentary community, there is a hypocrisy where Lerix is getting an easier ride, and you maybe have seen or feel or think that other people have done less and get a harder ride. Is that right?
If you enjoy VTubers, for example, you like, there was one, I believe there, like, the general consensus was like, you're a freak and this and that. Even if the VTuber isn't being sexualized, it's still like, to most people, it's like, oh, you know, this guy's obviously a pedophile, a lolicon, this and that. That's kind of it. And yeah, it's more of like killing two birds with one stone. It's like, yeah, I get to fuck with him, and if anything, they're, you know, this whole point of he's done this, but he kind of gets an easy out, or he gets a little bit of a pass. Like, he hasn't, for example, despite him doing this, which I hate to go back to the Eromanga Sensei review, but if anybody else had reviewed an Eromanga Sensei and tried to mask it under, well, what people would perceive to be masking it under, I was just reviewing it for the plot, essentially, right? And to be critical of it, most people wouldn't buy that because most people wouldn't even touch that. But again, it's just like the most charitable interpretations to somebody who has a repeated pattern of taking in this content, right?
Well, I think, okay, the thing is like, again, we're going back to this. Possibly, yeah, maybe someone might, you know, be more harsh about that. But like, you know, I think that you can't get around the fact that, I mean, I think most people would look at it as, oh, it's kind of weird to review it. I feel like we're repeating ourselves. It was weird to review that. He shouldn't have done that, but he was critical of the elements and wasn't supportive of the sexualization.
I do want to address, like, somebody in your chat did say this, and I'm pretty sure I know what it is, right? It's the same thing. It's like the same allegation, whatever you want to call it, the same story over and over and over again. And I guess this is to your bitter point, whatever, about me, which is like, yeah, it's like I got so much shit for something that isn't even proven to be me. There's a YouTuber called Franchise that claims that he has the smoking gun and this and that. It's so stupid, and it's not bad. It's like a misdirect almost, and it's so bad to me.
Well, that's why, you know, I didn't want to get into it because it feels unreasonable to kind of like be like, well, answer to this.
Well, yeah, that's where my bitterness, I guess, would come from for this whole thing. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Like, yeah, so, I am definitely bitter about that.
So you feel like Lerix got an easy ride, you got a really hard ride, and you've been treated unfairly, essentially.
Yeah, for about, let's say, 2 years in the commentary space, after I made a critical take on Augie, because this was going off of after the whole technicals war and the zero shit. Like a couple months later, I believe, or soonly or shortly after, Mr. Girl starts getting invited to panels and such. And Mr. Girl is a controversial figure because of, obviously the things he has said. So it's like it's very weird that to me at the time, that Augie would be so hell bent on like burying Zero and shit, when Mr. Girl, likes to add nuance for certain aspects, and this and that. It just seemed like, well, why did you actually have an issue with this if Mr. Girl is going to be here and add his nuance of takes, whatever that might entail. It seems kind of like different, weird, maybe a bit hypocritical. And then after that, it was like the Lolicontroversy shit was brought up, and it's all of a sudden like being called a pedophile for like 2 years and shit. Having a story rehashed over and over again with different interpretations, and now adding other things such as you're a groomer and a pedophile when there was never talks of that ever. It's just, yeah, of course I'm gonna be bitter about that. I'm like, what the fuck? I did, like, why? Like, just because every fucking time, anytime I try to make a critical piece on anybody, it's always going back to that. If
So I mean,
it's
but
dumb,
okay,
like,
but
it
this is the
pissed me
thing.
off,
This
yeah.
this is like the impression that I get is, and we've gotten to the bottom of this, right? So you feel you were treated badly, unfairly, and Lerix gets a free pass to come back in, right? So obviously, I can't fucking address any of that because I don't know about your allegations exactly. I don't know what was said previously. Like, there's like always a rabbit hole that you need to get into with some of these commentary dramas to figure it all out. Okay, but without speaking to it, I guess that my question to you would be, what is the way for you, do you think, to like move forward from all of this?
I had to make one final video, and that's about it. I was supposed to drop this like a week ago or so, but I have, I know this doesn't fit with the Sen obsessed narrative, but I have been covering other things. Because if you look at my channel, I covered like the Hopeless Peaches thing. The other day I covered the Wilbur thing, and it's only because it seemed interesting. And the Lerix thing, I feel like, well, I got the reaction that I wanted. He addressed it on a fucking Google document. Yeah, he lied in the Google document, clearly. This and that, and it's whatever. But it's gonna be like I said, it's a dry topic. It's like whatever. It just, life moves on, right? And no, I'm not obsessed to the point where I'm going to. Maybe I'll throw like a couple shorts here, but it's kind of died down, right? It's gonna be like there's only so much you could bring up about something. Anytime that I've talked about this, it's always to either for the reaction or to prove something else, and there've usually been little receipts of sorts like this or whatever. And that's about it. I haven't even tagged
No,
them,
sure.
I
Well,
believe.
the thing is
minute.
like, listen, the one thing I would say is that, and I don't like people that are dishonest and lie about things, right? And I looked at Lerix's response, and I would say that he could have done more to really, put it all out there openly to really address it more substantively. So I don't disagree that, like, the way that he put it, I think there's more that he could have done to address it more fully, right? But I don't think that's born necessarily out of an effort to, maliciously deceive people. I think he just doesn't want to get into it because it's fucking ball ache to get into it all and go over it, especially when the people that have been critical of him before are not fucking hammering that so much anymore. And for whatever reason, they're not. Maybe they're just pals with him. Maybe they've changed their mind. I don't know. So, if it feels like is that what you want? You want him to address it more? Is that right? Or
okay, so even though I like to throw the blue shell, right? Like you said, in Mario Kart. It's not that I wouldn't be opposed to actually just like having I'm having a conversation with you. I'm not hella bad faith or anything like that, or any of the sort, or whatever, debate tactics or whatever. I could be pretty straightforward. So if anything, I always said, hey, I have 3 questions for you. I remember I got banned for his chat for addressing one of his chatters. And I got banned for it because I addressed his incest review, his Lolly incest review or whatever, right? I gave them the name of it, essentially. And he saw that, and I believe he got pissed off. And then that's when he made a little bit of a call out. He's like, we have ultra autistic retard, MrSen. He went on for like a little bit of a minute. Then he fucking banned me from chat, which is dumb because it's like, whatever. I guess he perceived it as me taking a shot at him. Sure, whatever, dude. But
I mean, but you know, I feel like you're kind of acting like, oh, I just went to his chat, bro. You're out here like posting about this guy constantly, and you know, you want to.
Nah, this was before that. This was before that. The whole thing started up again after he did that because I had left it alone up until that point. That's why I was in his chat. I was like, I'll just watch him, have him out, and see what's going on. His chatters was talking to me, or at least one of them was. So I just said the name of the anime, and I guess he took it as a fucking slight. But it's like, if you were going to address this anyway, the fuck was the point of like getting mad about it and banning me? You were going to address it anyway, so whatever.
Yeah,
but I guess
you're trying to force his hand, aren't you? Because again, you want to fuck with him. Like, I mean, how long have you wanted to fuck with this guy for? I guess is a question.
That was it. Up until that point, it was it. Then he went on a spiel, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this again. Fine.
Right. So up until that point, you were just asking genuine questions, and then all of a sudden, you wanted to.
No,
I
wasn't asking genuine questions because he didn't want to talk even up to that point before the quote unquote obsession arc started.
Yeah.
I made a joke.
Sorry, go on, please.
No, I even made a joke, Chud, at my own expense with him. Before any of this even kicked off even more, I told Lerix, and he had been poking for a while, like he was calling me a cuck and shit like that, based off like an Ico post or whatever, where he kind of like misconstrued the whole thing, and I'm guessing like he didn't like me ever since the debate we had about the group chat leaks or whatever, which just went in circles for like 15 minutes. And I guess it was agree to disagree. But ever since then, he was really kind of like pissed at me, and he was taking shots here and there and stuff, which is why I just initiated. It's not like I came out of nowhere and said I'm going to go and attack this guy or low. He started with me, and I was even to that point I was trying to make jokes of it. I was like, hey, Lerix, when I called in one time, because this is when he was calling me a cuck or whatever. So I called in, and I was like, hey, Lerix, you, me, and Flam should start a podcast, and we could call it the Lolicows rather than Lolcow Podcast and shit. And I'm like, that would be good, right? That'd be money. I'm making a joke at my own expense or whatever. He got really mad at that. And he's like, you're fucking disgusting. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, we all have controversies of that sort. It'd be fine. And then he just fucking left the call. It's like, I was even trying to make light of my own situation, but that wasn't even good enough there. So, like, okay, whatever.
Sure. I mean, you know, establishing the exact point, you know, that it kind of broke down. I mean, I'm not sure. But, like, I think that at this point, regardless of what the past shows, and maybe at that point, you know, he was acting a bit excessively. I can't say because I don't know the full timeline, right? But, like, just looking at your community posts, you are not only repeatedly posting about him. I'll admit, in the past, 2 weeks, it's maybe reduced a little bit, right? But you're like, you know, let me read this post to you. This is your own post from 13 days ago. I know the cope defense for Lerix is, bro, you're obsessed, but there's just so many receipts, man. Lamau. And now, know that I know he reads every new post I make. I love making little bro Liam, his first name, for no reason.
Yes.
Aware that I know all his history. Lerix defenders, are you ready to defend this one? I'm curious what today's spin will be. More importantly, Lerix, why are you still calling Lolly pedophilia? Stop spitting on your own people, you ungrateful user. Edit 1. Yeah. Bro, no one cares is not an appropriate response. You closeted degens need to give a good response after lying to the Sen about Lerix, not being into Lolly. You losers also Rev says Desu's community and Lolicons apologies for being bad faith when your hero is the biggest Lolicon of them all. Edit 2. To the artist, I don't care if Liam, again his first name, pulled you back as an internet friend. You are one of the many testimonies that confirm he's a closeted lolicon, not that there's anything wrong with that, right, guys? So why the fuck would Lerix want to speak to you when you're posting shit like this?
He didn't want to speak to me before that. This is after he established that he wants nothing to do or no conversation to happen. This is before that.
Okay.
I feel
so
like
your response to that is to go into a schizo fucking screed repeatedly on your community notes because he doesn't want to talk to you.
I feel like you keep trying to interpret him in the most charitable light, and you keep trying to
the most charitable light, bro. You sound insane. Of course, he's not going to want to talk to you. If someone's doing that to me,
I've seen more insane. I think this whole I don't know what your definition of whatever schizo is, and saying, can we agree that's a subjective thing?
But the problem is, okay, it's subjective. You sound, we've had a reasonable conversation. I've actually quite enjoyed our conversation. Okay, it's been fun to talk to you. But like, if I was in Lerix, if there was someone that was like, posting about me, about an old controversy I had, and was like using my first name and doing community posts about me and like trying to ruffle my feathers. Yeah, eventually I might not want to fucking talk to them, and I don't think that's
That's
unreasonable.
fine. That's fine. But those posts came after, like, I had already established, like, obviously he's not going to talk to me because, like I said, this was after he banned me from the chat and went on that little bit of a rant and stuff. And I'm like, okay, we've established that he's obviously not going to talk. I believe this is also after the Moth thing where he made the Google Doc where he's just, there's no evidence to back up any of his claims. He's just doing trust me bros, and he's trying to say that whatever, this and that, I'm out on a crusade against him, which I guess, it is what it is. But the main thing that I took away from that is where he's like, I've never liked anything of a sexual nature, which again, that was proven to be wrong. And the other takeaway is like he's been saying things like, I want to, like, I like pictures of little animated children, which is like, he did, and he said it too. Like, you want the screenshot of that? He said it in his own words.
I think I know what you're referring to. Yeah. So I think again, I feel like we're kind of looping around to this point where I agree that there could have been a more substantive response there. I think that what he's trying to do is to make clear that the images that he was liking were not like heavily sexualized images of naked children. That seems to be what he's, well, that's the interpretation that I took of it, right? And that's my interpretation. And listen, my bias is I do like the guy. I get on with him. Okay. If he was liking some weirdo pedo shit that I was like, that's disgusting, I'd be more willing to cut him off, certainly. But I do like the guy, and I'm willing to be kind of charitable to him, certainly. But I feel like I'm admitting my bias there. But then you're taking it to the point where you just want to fuck with him. So of course you're going to have the worst possible interpretation of everything that he says, because that allows you to fuck with him going forward more, doesn't it?
Sort of, but if you're talking about like the worst possible interpretation when in regards to, like, what would be the way I defined it, as in like little anime children like that.
But this is the thing. You're again, you were saying that he said he never liked anything sexual. And what I'm saying to you is what he's getting across in his message is he never liked sexual images of children. And you're saying, but no, he did like, no, he's saying he didn't like sexual images of children. And whilst there's some stuff that maybe is marginal that I might interpret a bit differently, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about that one. I think that broadly speaking, I'm happy to accept that he didn't like sexualized images of children in the context of things you look at that are obviously children that are heavily sexualized that people would find disgusting.
Yeah, and that's easy to say when he deleted his Twitter account and with all the likes that were in there. Also, it's like,
is that image you showed me the worst that you've got of what he looked like?
Chud, it's to find it, yeah, because I'm gonna say this. I didn't say I'm going to archive every little thing Lerix had because I hate him, like, right off the bat. Like I said, we were at least amicable with each other. We didn't have any beef up until the group chat leak disagreement, I guess. This is not like I was collecting every little damning thing on him so that I can fuck him over and whenever. Because if that was the case, I would have recorded our initial conversation when the first Lolly thing happened, which is when he got if you want to call it exposed. That word is so gay. But when Grimsy made his initial video on him, and he had a conversation with me, and we talked about it, and this is what he said. He said, "Oh, I don't interpret Lolly or Lolicon as, sexualized images of children." It was more of his stance of like, I interpreted it as a petite woman rather. It's just like, again, that's like, okay, fine. So if that's what we have established at this point, that's cool. Whatever. I didn't give him any shit after that. If I was out to kill this guy, like, from the get-go or whatever, and get every little incriminating thing of him, I would have recorded that. I would have gotten more stuff, but that wasn't the point.
But,
like,
okay,
I only started fucking with him.
Okay, but here's the thing, right? I accept that you used to be on better terms with him, or not be as hateful, or not. Well, okay, I won't use that word. You weren't as like desperately trying. Well, you weren't trying to fuck with him before. You were more. Yeah. I'm trying to be fair to your point of view. Okay, you just wanted to. You come to a stage where you've fallen out to a high degree, and you want to fuck with him now. Okay. I guess the point I would make is you keep referring back to this idea there was like all these images that were liked, right? and
Mhm.
you're presenting to me that one image, which presumably is what you think is the most damning thing.
No, it's the only thing I could have scrapped together from all of the, because he deleted the entire account. How are you
Sure,
supposed
sure.
to get more?
But I guess
Yeah,
the point that I would make is that in instances where people are into the lolly stuff, like with Vosh, for
Mhm.
example, Vosh showed
Mhm.
a fucking quick image of his folder, and people were able to
Mhm.
piece together that he had images of like what looked to be very young people, like hardcore shit, right?
Mhm.
And if the worst that we can piece together of what Lerix was liking is what we've got, I would just presume, like, I know you're saying, well, I couldn't track it down, sure, but I would presume there'd be a lot worse, more substantive evidence against him of him liking like heavily sexualized images, and I'm just not really seeing that. And I know you're going to say, well, but the account got deleted. Sure. Well, in that case, I haven't got the evidence to show that what you're
Yeah.
saying maybe existed, so I can't really judge him on stuff that I can't judge. I can only
Yeah.
go off what you've got, and if that's the best that you've got, well, yeah. I mean, he was liking
Yeah,
some such shit.
it's not good
but-
enough. Yeah, it's not good enough. And I also think, and would you agree that the perception and the overall likability does play a factor in giving him a more charitable interpretation?
Sure. Yeah, I think that Lerix is liked. I think he's got good takes on things. I think that yeah, he is getting positive attention, and some of that is because he's a likable guy and he puts things across in a way that people like. That probably plays a part. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean,
I don't
that.
think that's at the detriment of what he's. Just to be clear, I'm saying that
Mhm.
because clearly I can see that commentary guys were shitting on him harder before, right? But I don't
Mhm.
think that is because I don't think he should be getting more shit now. I think that's a more reasonable place to be, and I think that if others could be viewed more favorably, I'm all for that, and I push that idea. Be more favorable to people and don't destroy them necessarily over stuff. That's always been my take on this stuff.
Right, that's fair. And since I've used like pretty much every blue shell I have, and at this point it's like, yeah, it's whatever. He's given every reaction that he's probably gonna give at this point. I don't see him being dragged for this again unless he really pisses somebody of higher status off, in which case you go and I mean, would you agree with this that normally whenever there's somebody of high status, he's kind of untouchable until he majorly fucks up, or there are other people of similar status that challenges them. That's when you would normally go and get maybe previous receipts and start using those against him. Like for example, the Max shit. As soon as Max started getting more criticized and he keep doing fuck up after fuck up, all of a sudden now we're revisiting the Magnetar situation where if this was a very, very big deal, this should have never been brought to light. This should have been called out on the spot. But it just to me, it felt like it got resurfaced for the simple fact that Max's shields, in a sense, were down.
Yeah, no, that is a dynamic at play because I watched the whole. I was more. I think that the allegations against Mama Max were more substantive than people gave it credit for, and I think that Mama Max's response at the time, I said how bad it was that he called Magnetar a pedo, but I was a much smaller creator, wasn't as associated with the commentary community,
Mhm.
right? And I
Mhm.
agree with you that this new flourish of drama has brought more attention to his old actions, right? But I think
Yeah.
that with Mama Max, because of what he did was so big, broad, substantive, calling people pedophiles, the Night Doc stuff that came out, the fact he'd faked
Mhm.
information, the fact he'd lied about getting someone arrested. I think the reason there was like so much outrage and attention on that is because of how insanely high the shit that he was doing was, right? Whereas I agree with you that there could be a situation where people look back on the Lerix stuff, I mean, if he gets
Yeah.
into it with, a certain creator, they might look back at it
Yeah.
and go, "Oh, what about this that you did? What about that you did?" That's certainly a
Yeah.
possibility.
They pull up old dirt and they try to use it, and it almost seems like this wasn't problematic before up until this point. When things escalated. So it's like, did you initially really have that much of an issue with this, or are you just now using it as just a way to attack this guy essentially? Because my entire thing is like, I think Cumin, is that his name? Queeman pointed this out too. He was like, it doesn't seem like you have necessarily a problem with what he's taking or what like the content per se. You're just having a go at him basically, and it's like, yeah, because I mean, my stance on this was initially, the lolicons any form of like, it was essentially the same Diorio stance, and everybody in commentary, it's like, oh, pedo and stuff. But like, given recent developments, it's like, because this question was posed to me as well. It's like, well, if you're gonna say all this shit, do you think Lerix is a pedo? And at the time, this was before, and I still don't call him a pedo. I said Lerix by his own word is a pedo, but whatever. I won't say that. He's just a loser. He's a dork or whatever. So it's like, my whole stance on it is like, yeah, I mean, lolicon is like a gateway drug of sorts to pedophilia, sure. If you're gonna like a cutesy anime chick, right? Are you immediately gonna call it pedophilia though? I don't know. I'm probably not gonna judge. I'm not gonna rush to that conclusion to just, call every fucking guy that has the cutesy anime profile of a girl to be a pedophile at this point. And it's not for the whole LoliCen, why are you criticizing this and that? Because again, I've established like comparatively, my shit is, it's like, what the fuck, dude? Like whatever. But I guess I'll have a more calm take, kind of like the Oreo, I guess. Like again, like you looked at this once again, and through your lens, you saw it as a teenager rather than like a child or whatever, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but it is like, I'm not going to sit here and like stake my fucking I would like, let's put it this way. I'm not into the anime stuff anyway, but let's say I was. I probably wouldn't jerk off to that just to be on the safe side. Okay, just to be 100%, because I just don't think being anywhere near that stuff is a bad idea. Okay, I just think that looking at it, I'm not looking at it thinking, oh my god, this is very obviously an image of an explicit child, and having that kind of outrage or disgust with it, like I would with like the stuff that Vosh was looking at, for example, right? One thing I do just want to ask though, because it's like you're saying Lerix isn't a pedo, but he is a pedo by his own words. Like, what do you mean by that?
I mean that if he's going to just immediately say that Lolly or Lolly, and then go back on his original stance and just definitively go with Lolly and Lolicon, as pedophilia, and there's just no nuance to it, then yeah, is he not by his own,
But
word?
I mean, I don't know if he said that. I don't know what his take on it is. I mean, it would seem crazy to me that he would define himself as a pedo by the only things he was liking, because otherwise he's calling himself a pedo. My base understanding is that he wasn't liking like heavily sexualized images of obvious children.
But like the problem with that is that he already lied about it not being sexualized when there is. And number two,
well, I think what he's saying is that he wasn't like again. He was saying he's not liking sexualized images of children.
Right. Okay. And my question to you, and if you'll humor this, is
sure.
How can you how can you actually tell at that point? Because to some, again, the image that I had shown you prior wouldn't look like a teenager to them, based off of the fact that it has like a flat chest and stuff of that sort. So again, just to go to this, I'm not trying to be a jackass.
No, sure, it's fine. I do see where you're coming from, and like like I say, the image that I'm fucking looking at is marginal to me. I mean, I feel like we've already just been through this, but like, it's marginal to me. I wouldn't jerk off to it, even if it's the anime, just to be on the safe side, okay? But like, if someone was looking at that, and I don't even know if Lerix was liking it because he was sexually pleasing himself to that, or there was another reason that he was liking it. I mean, like, there are reasons that someone might like an image like that because they like the art style or something. Whilst I appreciate that's what lollies say, they're talking about a fucking 13-year-old getting fucked, not a cutesy image of a woman, teenager, whatever, with the sex toys, right? But like, I just think that the basic standard I go to is I do not see enough of what Lerix was liking to think this is like obvious explicit children, and therefore I would be concerned about his even consumption of that, because there just isn't enough meat on the bone for me to come to that conclusion. And that's kind of where I land with it. And
well, that seems to be like your consistent like take on the entire thing. But do you believe that people that have held similar beliefs and to this day continue to hold like the beliefs, like for example, they say, I don't know, like Flamenco has jerked off without actually knowing if he jerked off, but he's watched this, right, of a 12-year-old child being in this kind of like sexual situation because of the genre, obviously, right? would you say those people, and if they still hold this belief and they haven't toned anything down, do you think it's a bit hypocritical for them to continue to say this while knowing that Lerix reviewed Arrow Manga Sensei?
Yeah, I don't really know enough about the flamenco situation exactly. The thing that I would say would be hypocritical is if someone was liking the same sorts of images that Lerix was, and they were condemned more strongly. If that could be presented to me, I would be able to say, yep, that's definitely hypocritical. They're liking things on like an art account that are like, some of it are a bit weird maybe, or a bit sus, but nothing too explicit. I can reasonably come to the conclusion that's why they were liking it. It wasn't like an explicitly sexual thing. They weren't liking sexualized images of kids. If that was the case, then yeah, I'd say there's a hypocrisy there. But without, and this is the trouble though, is like, you'd almost have to put them side by side and go, right, person A was liking this, person B was liking this. Is there a substantive difference between the things they were liking, right? And if so, are they getting treated differently? And why is that? Well, yeah, there you go. There's your hypocrisy. There's different standards for different people. But, I just don't know if like there's someone that's exactly comparable to the stuff that Lerix was doing to make that comparison necessarily.
Would you say it's fine to make him like a bit of like a base template for situations like this? Sort of.
What do you mean? Like in terms of like, well, the Lerix standard. I don't know.
like well, my video titles were like going to be the Lolly Devil standard or whatever. I don't know. What do you think of that?
The way I look at it is like, if I saw a situation where someone was doing what Lerix was doing and they were getting heavily criticized for it, right? It's tricky because I've got kids, so I do need to be careful. But I would like to think that I would at least, issue out some fair analysis and criticism if people were taking it too hard. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult because that situation hasn't happened. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. If someone is getting completely crushed and destroyed, and it seems unreasonable based on the facts of the matter, I would always like to hope that I would step forward and say, yeah, this is too much. This is too far. But
yeah, because I've again, and this is particularly in small commentary that I've seen, it's like any kind of this behavior is unacceptable and it's immediately pedophilia and stuff. And it's like, well, what do you think of Lerix? It's like, oh, well, that guy's cool, and I'm like, did you know about his, what he's reviewed and stuff? He's like, I mean, my entire issue with this is like, I won't harp on it too much, but it's just, I don't know how like the defense for these people that say watching this kind of content in any way, shape, or form is inexcusable, for them to give him the out of, well, he was critically reviewing this ecchi incest anime. I just don't.
Right.
I don't know what that's about,
Sure. I mean, I think the thing is like, I'm pretty sure he was 18 when he did it, right? And like,
the review was 20.
He was 20 when he did it. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But like, I think that I look at that and I think, what am I going to conclude about that person? Am I going to conclude that there's some sort of hidden pedophile, or they've got some sort of issue there because they're critically reviewing that information? If someone else with a similar circumstance was reviewing that in the same way, I would just have the same take. It's weird. You shouldn't do that. But like, I'm not going to think you're necessarily a pedophile or anything like that off the back of it, right? If there's other examples of other people that are doing that are getting more harshly criticized, sure, we can say that's hypocritical. But
for example, I would bring up the Mr. Girl example. He reviewed Cuties, and he did it to be, I would assume, be critical of it. And then from there on out, like, what was the main takeaway? The main takeaway was that he's just a pedophile. Well, from like a majority, right? Because Cuties was, like the.
It's funny you bring up Mr. Girl because there's a lot of history there for me. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so because the main takeaway from the Cuties thing, right, is that it was softcore like CP or whatever. But Mr. Girl review it, and it was presumably, or assuming, like, people assumed that it was just.
Well, whoa, hang on a sec though. The difference with Mr. Girl is that Mr. Girl referred to the girls as hot, so he was criticized because he made a judgment of the girls in it and made a comment they were hot, which people saw as like a sign that he was some sort of pedophile, right? Now. Without listen, that's a very long conversation you can have about that. I think it was a fucking insane, crazy thing to say. Even when I, was more friendly with him, I, still thought that was a crazy, stupid thing to say. And he got, heavily criticized for it. I just think that like, there's a difference. Like if Lerix had watched it and said, yeah, that 13-year-old girl was, whatever in a positive way, I think it's more reasonable that you would criticize on that basis. But the fact was, he was critical of it. And in fact, other people did review QTs and watched it and came back and said it was disgusting, etc., etc., etc. And, they didn't receive the criticism that Mr. Girl did because they were being critical of the sexualized elements in it. And I guess I view it in the same kind of way with Lerix, and that he was being critical of it, even though he watched it. And that's a kind of weird, stupid thing to do, knowing what it is.
I've seen that. And I guess the only thing I would have to say to that is that, that would be, completely understandable if he didn't have the, the other history of like, well, obviously being a weeb, knowing what degeneracy entails, already knowing what this would entail. It doesn't seem like you'd need to like be critical of this type of content if you already know what it entails, and if you already have a history of like...
But you can make the same argument about cuties. People watch cuties after seeing the brouhaha on the internet about it, and they still went and watched it and came back and were critical of it. But it's like, would you say to them, well, why did you watch it in the first place? It's like, it's a piece of media that exists. I don't know much about anime. Apparently it's on Crunchyroll. Right? It sounds like degen bullshit to me. But the idea that there's something fundamentally we can discern that's wrong with the Lerix for doing that, I just think is excessive. When for me, it's just, that was stupid to do. Why did you do that? Pointless thing. And just to say it's too bad and it's sexualized just seems like a pointless thing to do. But
you do think like the people that have held that standard for others should continue to hold that standard for him?
I mean, it depends on what they want to do with that information, I guess. Like, if people want to poke fun at him, call him a fucking retard and say you're weird for watching it or something, that's fine. But, if someone is looking to cancel anyone on those exact terms, then I would say that you're being unreasonable or holding a different standard if you're doing it to two different people.
Yeah, because I just want to see if, the small commentary, again, just to go back to them, that all criticize like any little cutesy thing, like, I don't know, anything mild.
Look, listen, it does feel like we're kind of looping back to the same point. So I just want to say this, right?
Yeah.
If someone is being a hypocrite and is being inconsistent, I agree. You should call that out and you should point that out. It feels like you're trying to squeeze in that point to Lerix when I don't know if there's any good, strong examples that demonstrate that hypocrisy. That we can definitely point to.
It's more to the it's more to the people that are, would be gung ho to jump on anything, anybody that's done this and just immediately label them as such. It's more so to them now. That's why I asked you prior. I'm like, would you say it's fair to use him as like a bit of a template where it's like, there's all these terrible interpretations for him, so you should be able to give those terrible interpretations to other people?
Yeah, that's fair. I'd say that's fair. And if someone is taking a very strong stance and what they've done is comparable to Lerix or similar to that, then it's fair to criticize them and say, well, you're being too strong here. You took a softer line, or have been more willing to be forgiving to someone who's done similar in the past. Yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
All right. Fair enough. All right, Chud. This was a good talk on my end, at least.
Okay. Hopefully, listen. Look, obviously, I've done my best to be fair. Hopefully you felt this is a good chance to get your feelings out there. And all I'll say is this, right? Make your video, whatever. Of course, you don't need my permission, but just say whatever you want to do. But I just genuinely think that you're best off to drop whatever the campaign is to fuck with them. I'm not saying this just to sweep for Lerix. It's genuinely like for your own sake. Like, I just worry that, obviously if you continue to pursue someone, you gaze into the abyss gaze back at you. And before you know it, you're kind of wrapped up in this kind of endless cycle of going after someone,
You mean like tunnel vision?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're so focused on that thing. And, I don't know what your future holds. I mean, obviously, a lot of people don't like you, unfortunately. But yeah, I guess...
Clearly.
I mean, I guess, you just got...
I mean, let's see. Well, Chud, how do you feel about me? Let's see. That's the important one.
$5 from somebody. Sen is the left to Lerix's
I
destiny.
mean...
I won't chuck the blue fucking...
No, it's fine. Listen, look, at the end of the day, I'm always up for like a fucking internet scrap. I mean, I don't like having drama with people unnecessarily. If I was being brutal, I'd say you seem like a sick ex-lover, desperately trying to fucking attack this guy for any opportunity, right? If I was being nicer, I'd say you seem very persistent in your effort to draw attention to Lerix, but it's kind of futile and I don't think you're going to get anywhere, right? But yeah, you do come across as a sour, bitter person. And I think that shedding that would only be good for you. and you can hopefully move forward to better things.
Well, not on the internet though, right?
What do you mean?
Unless I become not in the entertainment internet space or anything, right? More of like a maybe an IT job, right, or something of that sort. I don't well, I don't look at this as like to gain like internet fame or to grow. Obviously, if I wanted to grow, obviously I wouldn't be doing these moves. Like what I think one of the criticisms I got from the commenters is like, oh, can you not do this? I watch both you and him and stuff of that sort. It's like, why are you doing this? So that's essentially dividing the audience. Which is again not a really smart move if your intention is to grow, but I just kind of wanted to put the info out there and like have a good time, sort of, like again, yeah, I know the perception is bitter ex-lover and this and that. It's just like, yeah, whatever. Everybody's gonna have the perception of things.
There's some fights and some battles that I could pursue that I just don't, because especially people that are really fucking annoying and have said dumb shit I feel about me, and I'm bothered by
I've heard that.
this.
I have heard that before, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think genuinely, right, if you could get this video out and that be it, and you move on, I genuinely think that would be the best thing for you. And I'm not just saying that because I'm like, please stop attacking Lerix. You can make a billion community posts about Lerix for all I care. It doesn't mean that much to me. It's just, I just genuinely think that ridding yourself of that would probably be beneficial, and you could focus on other content and do whatever you want with your channel,
Oh no, for sure. That's why once again, it's like that hasn't been my main priority to make that ultimate quote unquote hit piece or anything. It's just to get some final general thoughts. And that's about it, because the first video that I had made wasn't so much the hit piece. It was just wow, people actually want to, they're like talking about this and shit like that, but also being kind of a dick and saying, playing it up a little bit more, being a fucking asshole and shit. Which is fine, but that wasn't my initial video, so I'll just drop, I guess, the last video. But as you can see, even from like the channel, I've either been inactive or I've been talking about other topics just because.
Yeah, I mean, look, scrolling through it, there's your more recent posts seem to be on other topics, so
Yeah, it's like I do other streams. I haven't dedicated a stream to Lerix since the doc. I just went back to talking what I normally do. It's just funny. It's if you ever want to. Do you cover Nick Rekieta? Have you covered Rekieta?
I have covered him a little bit. Yeah, his descent into alcoholism. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot with Rekieta that I cover usually on Fridays and stuff. It's just funny stuff because he always seems to do more stuff to top himself off. There was like that 30-minute rant he did where he got mad at somebody that said, "Oh, if Rekieta isn't the type of guy I thought he was." He went on a 30-minute rant telling this guy to kill himself, basically, stuff of that sort. So it's like, what the fuck?
Exactly. Yeah, there's so much stuff out there. Yeah, that's I saw that. That was kind of crazy. So you're on a bit of a Rekieta bent as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, Chud, I'm kind of like surprised people don't call that obsession, because I've made several streams on Rekieta and just his, whatever shenanigans he does. But I guess it's once again another perception basis. Like Nick isn't as liked as he once was, like, prior, because of all the fuck ups and stuff. So I guess from that angle, people are looking at it as, well, it's more acceptable and stuff, and it's not so much obsession at that point,
I think it's always going to come down to the size of the person, what they're doing, how crazy it is, and the perception from the audience of how much attention should be paid to that. Like, for example, if last year, because I covered the Mama Max stuff, the Camden Gerard Davis stuff in November, if I'd have made 10 videos about it then, people might have been like, dude, why are you going on about Mama Max so much, right? And I made a lot of videos recently about it, and some people did say that, but there was more acceptance because it's like, well, that's the thing now, And Nicholas Diorio, I think, has mentioned this, where there comes a time where it's just someone's time to be criticized, and it just kind of blows up, and then everyone's getting on board. And it does sometimes become a bit of a dog pile, right? So it's careful to be balanced with that. But yeah, I think Nick's just at this time where a lot of people are paying attention to him because he's this kind of drunken loser, right? So
yeah, Rekieta has definitely fallen from grace. A lot of the people that were once making defenses for him now they're going back and they're saying, in hindsight, I kind of should have seen this coming because there were some flags there and he was always kind of like this and stuff like that. So that's usually the shit I've seen like a lot. It's like, oh, I should have seen this coming. Like, for example, like the Max video. I actually made an anti-Max video about, well, when Pick a Side came out, and I criticized Max, and I'm like, there's no way he could be actually a legitimate pedophile hunter because he seems more performative than anything, and he's more focused on that kind of stuff. And again, people were like, either like, the majority was like, you're just, you're a hater and this and that and whatever. And Max is completely legitimate, and he's gotten every pedophile arrested, and he's shown everybody proof. And then we come to find out that wasn't the case, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like, I kind of saw it coming, and I think more people should have seen it coming as well, like a mile away, but they often don't. And then it waits, and you wait and you wait until finally it's time to do it. But then that to me just comes off as like, like, come on, why couldn't you do it before when they were at their height? But I guess, to your point, it's like there comes like a time and a place to do it.
Yeah, I had the same
that's when
take
you
as
should
you.
do it.
I was kind of like, why the fuck did people not fucking notice this? Because I remember covering it, and it's like, but on my small channel at the time, much smaller channel, I think people just, like, he's just liked, isn't he? He's liked by big YouTubers, and then at that point, they're kind of untouchable. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've also been looking for somebody to like just admit that, right? And it seems like not many people are just willing to just say, yeah, these factors do and can play a big role in this kind of thing, and not enough people either know or not enough people care to just blatantly say that. So I do appreciate that you are willing to say that and just put it in perspective.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, all the best with your channel, okay?
Yeah, thanks, man. See ya.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Wow.